Hey everybody, welcome back to Let's Talk. My name is John, and today we're going to be continuing in our Quentin Tarantino 4K Blu-ray reviews, the week of Quentin Tarantino here on Let's Talk. And today we're going to be talking about the two Kill Bill films, the entire bloody affair, Kill Bill Volume 1 and Kill Bill Volume 2. But before we dive into those 4K Blu-ray reviews, I always love to give a film review, and today we're going to be reviewing both Kill Bill Volume 1 and Kill Bill Volume 2, so if you don't want to know anything about those films, please skip ahead to that 4K Blu-ray review right now. So originally Kill Bill came out in October of 2003. The second part came out 6 months later, both of them written and directed by Quentin Tarantino. These films were actually filmed back to back, originally designed to be one film, and if you go to Los Angeles every single year, they will actually show you the entire bloody affair on the big screen, edited together, which is how I've always chosen to watch this, even though I hadn't watched it until this watch through back to back since high school. But I always used to love watching Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2 back to back because it truly does feel like one film. And that's why I chose to review it as one film, because Volume 1 truly does feel like a half a movie, despite the fact that it ends on one of the craziest fight scenes in film history, the Crazy 88 fight. It's all building to that from the time we open in this movie, really to give us a satisfying conclusion, so it doesn't feel like, you're waiting 6 months for the next part to come out. Very funny, this is around the same time that The Matrix split up Reloaded and Resurrections into two parts as well. So people think that that's kind of a new thing, like with Dune Part 1 and Part 2, or Wicked Part 1 and Part 2. No, this has been going on for a very long time, just because mainly back in the day it was to cut down run times. I believe the first part's like 1 hour and 51 minutes, while the second part's 2 hours and 17, so it would have been over 4 hours. Now, in the modern world of film, that's usually not too much of a big deal, although people are making a pretty big deal about The Brutalist having an intermission and being over 3.5 hours, but when it comes to Avengers Endgame, everybody was fine with that. So, people kind of do pick and choose which movies they want to go see for a long period of time and which ones they don't. But I completely understand setting aside 4 hours might be a tough pill to swallow. So if you could split this up into two parts, I can understand, but I still think watching them back to back as a complete film is the way to go. And because of a Quentin Tarantino film, this is absolutely Quentin Tarantino wearing his homage on his sleeve more than he had ever done before in films like Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, and then Jackie Brown. I mean, this is clearly an homage to the martial art films that he grew up loving, the blaxploitation films he grew up loving, and of course the spaghetti westerns that he grew up loving. Most people look at these as martial art films, and they really are. They're probably some of my favorite martial arts films of all time, but I'm also not the biggest martial art film fan, so that does kind of make sense. Uma Thurman plays our lead character in this film. She plays the bride. It's funny, you don't find out her real name until the second part. They try and hide it in the first part, but it's in pretty plain sight, and because of the spoiler review, her name is Beatrice Kiddo. I just actually kind of love how that, that's the one thing that kind of makes part one when you watch it now, and it must have been a little bit more annoying back in theaters, and I did see this in theaters. This is actually my first Quentin Tarantino film. I saw it in theaters, was this, and then part two back to back. Definitely a little too young. I think I was 11 and 12 years old when these came out, but I was already a Tarantino fan. I saw Pulp Fiction at a young age. Couldn't wait to see these movies. I fell in love with watching them, even part one, but when you watch it now, we know it's a revenge tale, but we leave a lot of stuff hidden. We don't see David Carradine until the second film. The second film is the much more emotional punch, while the first one, it's clearly a bloody revenge tale, and she's gonna get her revenge. We start off right away with her fight against Vivica A. Fox, which is a fantastic fight. This way you know what kind of movie you're in. You get the crazy sound effects. One thing I didn't say yet is how Quentin Tarantino, he has two connected universes. That the Red Apple cigarettes, all these kinds of brands, these characters like Vic and Vincent Vega are brothers from Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction, so they have those connected universes. And then Quentin Tarantino has said those characters from those first three movies, the movies that they would go see in theaters, are movies like Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2, like these over-the-top action movies. So you're not supposed to take these movies as seriously as like Pulp Fiction or Reservoir Dogs. Like, they are over-exaggerated and intentional. They look like films. The characters they know are in films. So some of the stuff that's truly hard to believe, you could watch the movie and go, okay, well, this is a movie. It's a movie that knows it's a movie, so you're not supposed to think too hard about that. Because it always kind of bothered me in the early part of the movie when the bride gets in the back of the pussy wagon after, she gets her revenge on the guy. Who's basically been pimping her out without her knowing. He kills him, kills the other guy, and she sneaks out of the hospital. In real life, there's no possible way that they would give her 13 hours to sneak out of the hospital while she got her feet going again in the back of the pussy wagon. It's just not going to happen. Once they find that guy dead, they're going to find his car first, and then they're going to find the bride. But these are things you're not supposed to think about when you're watching the Kill Bill movies. And Kill Bill Volume 1 is just building and building to that big, crazy 88 fight against Lucy Liu, whose character they build up phenomenally in this film. I love the anime sequence in the middle of it. I think that just looks absolutely beautiful. The only time Quentin Tarantino's ever done animation, and of course it's paying homage to the great animes, looks phenomenal. But that crazy 88 fight is just perfect at the end. Such great wire work. Love the homages. Love every single song choice in there. And then of course it builds up to the one-on-one fight. And we know who's going to win this one. And then that sets up Kill Bill Volume 2, which came out 6 months later. And this is when we start to really hit the more emotional beats. It's a much more, I would say, better pace. The first one is just foot to the floor, pedal to the metal. The second one becomes definitely more like a Western, especially with some of the beautiful visuals in the second one compared to the first one. First one looks great, but the second one, that one is slowing it down, much more of an homage to the spaghetti Westerns. And I really do like Volume 2 much more than I like Volume 1, which is very different from young John, teenage John, who definitely preferred Volume 1 over Volume 2. It's a Terminator 1, Terminator 2 situation, Alien and Alien situation. I just kind of, at this point in my life, have always preferred the slower pacing, taking your time a little bit. And I think they do that more in Volume 2. And of course, we're building up now her relationship with David Carradine's character, who was not only her mentor. I mean, she, obviously has the one mentor whose sequence is great in this movie as well, playing with his beard the whole time. And then we get the silhouette shots of them working together. Love all that as well. The second one, Daryl Hannah comes in the second one as well, giving a great performance. She's in the first one, but obviously she meets her death in the second one. Same thing with Michael Madsen, who's always cool to see pop up in a Quentin Tarantino movie. He's great in this, just as the washed up brother bud of David Carradine's Bill character. Bill pops up a lot more in this movie. We hit him in the first one. This is Quentin Tarantino again trying to revitalize a career like David Carradine's career. He's great in the movie. Builds up to a fantastic conclusion when we finally have to complete the revenge tale of the bride, of her versus Bill. And it's revealed that, her daughter's still alive, and he's using that as a ploy, even though he knows, hey, we got to get this over with at the very end. But he's going to explain himself, everything that he was feeling, all done perfectly. David Carradine does a phenomenal monologue. It's a little bit too on the nose when it comes to Superman, Spider-Man. We're always talking about the big superheroes. He's talking about how big of a comic book fan he is, but he only likes the superheroes that everybody likes. So I always thought that was kind of funny. He does have some really good points. That Superman monologue is fantastic. I love how he's always doing something with his hands. He's cutting a sandwich, making a sandwich. Phenomenal acting. I love the choice of David Carradine to be the guy that versus Uma Thurman in the very end. But of course, this is one of the greatest revenge tales in film history, and the bride has to get her revenge, and of course she does with the, what do they call that, the
5-point palm exploding heart technique.
And of course it works on him. He's gonna go down, and we're gonna send the fans home happy. The bride has her daughter back, and they are gonna go on living. This is much more of an emotional ending than we kind of set up in the first movie, but I think at this point in my early 30s, I would absolutely prefer Kill Bill Volume 2 to Kill Bill Volume 1. But when you watch them as a film, I think that it's an entire film, and as an entire film, it is definitely one of Quentin Tarantino's best, but it's not one of my all-time favorites. It's actually kind of moved down the list for me. I would still have Pulp Fiction, Reservoir Dogs, Jackie Brown, 1, 2, 3, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood behind that, and then I might put Django and Hateful Eight before I get to Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2 as a whole film now. But it's still a great film. It's still a great Quentin Tarantino film. It's an absolute blast. It's always going to be a once-a-year watch for me. I could always run back to it. I just used to like this movie a little bit more back in the day, but hey, it's still an absolute blast, and I can always highly recommend Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2, and the best way to do it is just watch it as an entire film. But let's talk about these Lionsgate 4K Blu-rays that just came out. So, here's Kill Bill Volume 1, Volume 2 on 4K Blu-ray. They'll be replacing my double pack right here, also from Lionsgate and Miramax, so they've had the rights to these for a very long time. I went with the standard editions, just like Jackie Brown. You do have the Lionsgate Limited Editions 4K Blu-rays that you can buy on lionsgatelimited.com. Again, just like Jackie Brown, would have liked those. They're about $40 each, but Tough pill to swallow to have to pay outright, so I went on the Atomic Movie Store. I bought Jackie Brown Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2 and was able to pay it in shop installment payments. An easier pill to swallow. And, yeah, I don't get the steelbooks, but these slipcovers are alright. I personally would have liked them to, have more of the yellow-red posters like they originally were promoting them, and I would have liked that just a little bit more than this. You get the same artwork underneath, so you have this artwork on the outside with the slipcover. It's the same exact artwork underneath. Individual disc design in there, can really appreciate that. And now it's a big downgrade right away from the extras of Jackie Brown. And I think feel like a lot of that is because they made these movies back to back, and they split up the making of documentaries on Kill Bill Volume 1 and Kill Bill Volume 2. And they're both like 28 minutes long, and if you add that up, they'd be the exact same length, or almost the exact same length as Jackie Brown's making of documentary. So again, it's one film that's kind of been split into two parts, but I think that kind of hurt the extras because both Blu-rays, which the pack-in Blu-rays are the exact same Blu-rays that had been previously released. There is absolutely no difference. All of your extras, though, aren't on those Blu-rays. You can find the same exact extras on the 4K Blu-rays, a little bit different from Jackie Brown in that sense, and that's because there's not much of them. They have the same. They both have 3 extras. They're making of documentaries. Volume 2 has a deleted scene, and they both feature a music video, and that is it. So they definitely cheaped out on the extras with Kill Bill Volume 1 and Volume 2, which is a huge difference from what they did with Jackie Brown, but of course they're at the mercy of what extras are already available. They're not going out of the way to get new ones. So all that praise I put on Jackie Brown for their extras, I do appreciate a good making of documentary, and they're not bad, but of course, feels a little bit more like promotional material, so it just didn't hit the same beats as Jackie Brown did. So unfortunately, I didn't really enjoy the extras as much, and that's just because they've been around for a long time and they were already pretty stripped down as it was. And now when you get into the audio, very similar to Jackie Brown, DTS HD Master Audio 5.1s for both Volume 1 and Volume 2. This is what Quentin Tarantino wanted. Same thing with Jackie Brown. He's not one to upgrade to Dolby Atmos. And it's funny, it took us a long time to get the Quentin Tarantino movies on 4K Blu-ray. I'm not entirely sure why. I think Quentin Tarantino just supports film more and is less supportive like physical media at home and bringing his movies to 4K Blu-ray. He's also picky with how they look. Like, he approved these. Like, he approved Jackie Brown, Kill Bill Volume 1 and Kill Bill Volume 2. So any flaws that, me or anyone else might have with these 4K Blu-ray releases, it's tough because this is how he wants his films to look. You can't argue with the man. Like, he has a certain image in his mind. They're his films. So, we talk about this all the time. As far as the director goes, they're their movies. If we disagree with how they want their movies to look, we could disagree, but unfortunately, you kind of got to respect them. It is their movies. So, he liked how these 4K Blu-rays looked as far as the audio and visuals go. So, we got to respect it. He liked the previously released DTS HD Master Audio 5.1s. And for Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2, I think that I understand. They're very good audio tracks. They're mixed pretty damn well. You don't really have to adjust the volume too much, which is something we'll talk about a little bit later in the week with Inglourious Basterds, so I could appreciate that. Obviously, both of these movies have fantastic soundtracks, great sound design. All of that comes in crisp and clear. I have absolutely no complaints about these DTS HD Master Audios. It's just more of like imagining like what could have been done with a brand new audio track. But still, the audio tracks that do exist are really good for both Volume 1 and Volume 2. Now, the biggest differences are going to be in the visuals for Kill Bill Volume 1 and Kill Bill Volume 2, because they both feature HDR10 and Dolby Vision. And Volume 1, I had heard things about it not being the greatest 4K Blu-ray transfer, but of course, I like to wait and see for myself. And when I watched it, it really isn't the biggest jump from Blu-ray to 4K Blu-ray when it comes to Kill Bill Volume 1. The HDR's there, it's definitely doing some work. This is a 2K upscale to 4K, so it's not actually native 4K. It's not taking it from the original film negative, which, you can notice that in parts, and I think it definitely hurts it more in Kill Bill Volume 1 than in Volume 2, because Volume 2 features some great black and white sequences, and all of that looks phenomenal in 4K Blu-ray. That's like the biggest difference if you were to jump from the Blu-ray to the 4K Blu-ray. Early in Part 2, where they have the flashback sequence and it's in black and white, all of that looks phenomenal in 4K Blu-ray. But a similar shot in Part 1 that I was really hoping to see with all the aviators across the dashboard, I was looking forward to seeing that in 4K Blu-ray, and I thought that the HDR would do some work on that in Volume 1, and it looked almost identical to the previously released Blu-ray. So that was a little bit disappointing, but is Volume 1 still an upgrade over the previously released Blu-ray? Yeah, it is. It's definitely a little bit brighter. There's just certain scenes I expected it to look a little bit better than it did. It felt a little bit too much like an enhanced Blu-ray, whereas Volume 2, there are some gorgeous looking shots. Felt more to me like a regular 4K Blu-ray, but still not a stunning 4K Blu-ray. Both Volume 1 and Volume 2, as far as the visuals go, didn't blow blow me away. I just thought Volume 2 was like slightly better. It's definitely the biggest upgrade from the Blu-ray to 4K Blu-ray, but most people are not going to buy Kill Bill Volume 1 on 4K Blu-ray and not buy Volume 2, or vice versa. That's like some psychotic shit. You obviously are going to buy them both if you're a fan of Kill Bill. It's just that if you were to actually pull these discs apart and you were to say which is better, I would say Kill Bill Volume 2 is definitely the better 4K Blu-ray. And both of them combined are not the world's biggest upgrades to 4K Blu-ray, and with no new extras, it's really hard for me to say, hey, this is something you need to upgrade right away. This is something I would definitely more recommend for a sale for both Kill Bill Volume 1 and Volume 2 on 4K Blu-ray. And if I was going to rate the entire bloody affair on 4K Blu-ray, I'm going to have to give it a 7.5 out of 10. It's still a passing grade. I could still recommend the upgrade. I just don't think I could recommend those Lionsgate limited 4K steelbooks at $40 when, you know, the upgrade isn't the most noticeable in my opinion, even for Volume 2, which is, you know, the more noticeable update. But like I said, you're going to get them both, and I would definitely say go with the slipcover versions if you have to have them now and you're a huge Tarantino fan like me. But if you're somebody who can wait a little while, you know, maybe these regular standard editions will drop in price to like $20 each, and I think that's the perfect sweet spot, because if you're somebody like me who watches the Tarantino films every year and you can get them for that price, definitely the 4K Blu-rays are still the best way to watch these movies. I can't deny that. It's a hard pill to swallow to spend over $80 on two films on 4K Blu-ray if you're not going to really be jumping too much to that format. But anyway, that's going to do it here for me, guys, on another episode of Let's Talk. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of the Kill Bill films on 4K Blu-ray. And guys, let me know, what do you guys think of the Kill Bill films in the comment section below? And then while you guys are down there, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share this video if you could. We also have channel memberships, guys, so if you want to become a friend of the channel, a producer for the channel like John Doe Juggler, or a channel director like Frank from Frank's Media and Reviews and Mr. Smelly Potato, you can look for all that information in the description below. But if you got no money to throw away, guys, don't worry about it. We just hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, get out in those streets, tell your friends about us, and then we'll be seeing you around.